There is something unusual about the time we are living in. A generation ago, knowledge was something you searched for. Today, knowledge searches for you. It flows through your screen. It speaks through machines. It answers questions before you even finish asking that. We are surrounded by intelligence, artificial intelligence, rapid intelligence, expanding intelligence. But here is the question many are not asking. Has man become wiser or just more informed? Long before the rise of computers, long before the internet, long before artificial intelligence, there was a prophecy, a quiet statement hidden in Scripture, waiting for its time. In the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 4, it says, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Knowledge shall increase. Not slowly, not gradually, but significantly. We are living in that moment. But here's what makes this prophecy so important. God did not celebrate the increase of knowledge. He simply revealed it. Because the increase of knowledge is not automatically the increase of truth. And it is certainly not the increase of wisdom. In fact, knowledge can rise while understanding falls. Information can expand while meaning is lost. And this is the tension of our generation. We know more, but do we understand more? We have more access, but do we have more direction? We can generate answers, but do we still hear God? There is a difference between information and revelation. Information comes from discovery. Revelation comes from God. Information fills the mind. Revelation transforms the heart. Information can be downloaded. Revelation must be received. And in this age of artificial intelligence, this difference has become critical. Because machines can process information, but they cannot carry revelation. They can predict patterns, but they cannot reveal purpose. They can simulate understanding, but they cannot know God. So the question is not whether knowledge is increasing. The real question is, what is happening to the human soul in the midst of it? Because knowledge by itself has a tendency. It inflates. It gives man a sense of control, a sense of independence, a sense that he no longer needs guidance. And this is not new. This is as old as the beginning. In the Garden of Eden, the first temptation was not about power, it was about knowledge. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The enemy did not say, "You will become powerful." He said, "You will know." Because knowledge, when separated from God, creates the illusion of self-sufficiency. And that illusion still exists today. How should I think? What should I believe? What is truth? And instantly an answer appears. But here is what must be understood. Speed does not equal accuracy, and access does not equal truth. There are answers that inform you, and there are answers that transform you. Only one of them comes from God. God is not threatened by knowledge. He is not intimidated by technology. He is not surprised by artificial intelligence. He is the source of all intelligence. But he is deeply concerned about one thing, that you do not replace his voice with endless information. Because something subtle is happening in this generation. People are learning to consult systems instead of seeking God. They are becoming intellectually equipped, but spiritually disconnected. They are gaining answers, but losing intimacy. And yet, the voice of God has not gone silent. In John chapter 10, Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me." Not algorithms, not systems, not predictions, my voice. Which means, even in an age of artificial intelligence, the greatest advantage a believer has is still the ability to hear God. Let that settle in your spirit, because the future will not belong to those who know the most. It will belong to those who discern the most. Those who can separate noise from truth, information from revelation, data from divine direction. So how should we respond to this era? Do we reject knowledge? No. Do we fear technology? No. We must position it correctly. Knowledge must remain a tool, not a master. Information must serve truth, not replace it. And above all, every increase in knowledge must drive us deeper into God, not further away from Him. Because at the end of the day, technology may increase what man can do, but only God can define who man is. In this age of knowledge, do not lose revelation. In this age of intelligence, do not lose the voice of God. Because the greatest tragedy of this generation will not be that machines became intelligent, but that men forgot how to hear God. We are living in a time where answers are everywhere. Ask a question, and within seconds, a response appears. Clear, structured, confident. It sounds intelligent. It feels convincing. But here is something many are beginning to discover. Great. Not every answer carries truth, and not every truth carries life. Because there is something higher than knowledge, something deeper than information, something that cannot be generated, only received. It is called wisdom.
And in this generation, wisdom is becoming rare.
The Bible makes a very striking statement in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Knowledge puffs up.
That means knowledge has a tendency. It inflates the mind while leaving the heart untouched. It gives the appearance of growth without the substance of transformation. A man can know many things and still not know how to live.
And this is where the danger of this era lies. We are becoming mentally equipped, but spiritually ungrounded.
We are learning faster, but not necessarily growing deeper. We are consuming information, but neglecting transformation. Artificial intelligence can now process vast amounts of data. It can analyze patterns, predict behavior, generate responses that sound wise. But here is the truth. It does not understand consequence. It does not carry conviction. It does not possess moral weight. Because wisdom is not just knowing what is right. It is knowing what is right when it matters most. Wisdom is not information. Wisdom is alignment with God. In the book of Proverbs, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom," not the accumulation of facts, not intellectual expansion. The fear of the Lord, which means true wisdom begins where God is acknowledged, honored, and obeyed. So a person may know everything about life and still lack wisdom if God is not at the center of that knowledge. Believer, listen carefully. There is a subtle trap in this age. You can become so informed that you stop being transformed. You can listen to teachings, watch videos, read insights, and yet remain unchanged. Because information can pass through you without ever entering you. It shapes you, it corrects you, it humbles you, it aligns you. And this is why many struggle today. Not because they lack answers, but because they lack direction. Not because they lack exposure, but because they lack discernment. Let me show you something deeper.
Knowledge tells you, this is what works. Wisdom asks, is this right before God?
Knowledge says, this is possible. Wisdom asks, is this profitable for your soul? Knowledge gives you options. Wisdom gives you boundaries. And boundaries are what preserve destiny. Without wisdom, knowledge becomes dangerous because it gives power without guidance. And power without guidance leads to destruction. This is why you can have a generation that knows so much, yet struggles with identity, purpose, and peace. Because those things are not products of knowledge, they are fruits of wisdom. Artificial intelligence can help you write, calculate, analyze, even simulate conversation, but it cannot teach you how to walk with God. It cannot build your character. It cannot convict your spirit. It cannot lead you into truth. Only the Spirit of God can do that. In James chapter 1, it says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. Not search endlessly, not depend on systems. Ask God. Because wisdom is not downloaded, it is given. So how should a believer respond in this age? Do not reject knowledge, but do not depend on it. Do not admire intelligence, but do not worship it. Instead, pursue wisdom. Let your knowledge be submitted to God. Let your understanding be shaped by His Word. Let your decisions be guided by His Spirit. Because in the end, it is not what you know that will define your life. It is how you live. And how you live is a reflection of wisdom. In this age of information, seek transformation. In this age of intelligence, pursue wisdom. Because knowledge may give you answers, but only wisdom will lead you into life. Has artificial intelligence replaced God in today's world?
This is a deep question that requires us to explore more about God's plan in the era of knowledge, as well as pick out God's voice in the midst of multiple worldly distractions.
There is a voice that has guided men long before systems existed. A voice that does not come from data, does not depend on patterns, and cannot be generated by intelligence. It is the voice of God. And in this age of artificial intelligence, that voice is not becoming less important. It is becoming more necessary than ever. Because for the first time in human history, man has created something that can speak back. You can ask, and it will answer. You can seek, and it will respond. You can even feel like you are being understood. But here's the truth. Not every voice that responds to you knows you. In John chapter 10, verse 27, Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Notice this carefully. Artificial intelligence can respond to your questions, but it does not know your soul. It can generate language, but it does not carry life. It can simulate understanding, but it cannot discern your spirit. Because the voice of God is not information, it is relationship. And relationship cannot be automated. There are moments in life when you need direction. There are seasons when you do not just need clarity, you need conviction. There are decisions where logic is not enough, you need leading. And this is where many will struggle in this generation, because they will become accustomed to quick answers, but unfamiliar with divine guidance. The voice of God does not compete with noise. It waits for stillness. And in a world that is constantly speaking, many are losing the ability to listen. Be careful. Because when you replace the voice of God with constant input, You may gain information, but lose direction. Have we replaced our relationship with God and listening for the voice of God with artificial intelligence? This is a major question, begging for answer in this generation. The voice of God carries something that no system can reproduce. It carries authority. When God speaks, it is not a suggestion. It is not an opinion. It is truth. And truth does not adjust itself to your preference. It aligns you to God's will. Artificial intelligence can give you options. The voice of God gives you instructions to your advantage. AI can suggest possibilities. God aligns you with purpose. One will inform your mind. The other will transform your life. Believer, listen carefully. If you lose the voice of God, you lose your advantage. Because what sets you apart is not what you know. It is who leads you. Many will rise in intelligence, but few will rise in discernment. Many will speak, but few will hear God. And the danger is not loud, it is subtle. You will not wake up one day and decide to stop hearing God. You will simply replace Him with something easier, faster, more accessible. And slowly your dependence shifts from seeking God to consulting systems, from waiting on God to scrolling for answers, from prayer to prediction. But hear this clearly, God still speaks. He speaks through His Word. He speaks by His Spirit. He speaks in stillness. He speaks in conviction. He speaks in ways that no machine can imitate. And His voice does not just inform you, it forms you. It corrects you, even when it is uncomfortable. It leads you, even when it is unclear. It shapes you into who you were created to be. Artificial intelligence may help you navigate the world, but only the voice of God can lead you through life. So in this age of many voices, choose carefully which one you follow, because one will echo your thoughts, but the other will transform your destiny. Do not lose the voice of God in the noise of intelligence, because the future does not belong to those who hear everything. It belongs to those who hear God.
Know that the Tower of Babel was not about building, it was about pride. Man trying to rise without God. There was a time when humanity spoke one language, one voice, one understanding, one united vision. And with that unity, they decided to build not just a city, but a tower, a structure so great that it would reach into the heavens.
Genesis chapter 11 says, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves. Let us make a name for ourselves."
That was the real foundation of Babel. Not bricks, not technology, not architecture, pride.
Because Babel was never about reaching God. It was about replacing Him.
Humanity had discovered something powerful: unity, innovation, and the ability to build beyond limits. And for the first time, man believed he could rise without God. Does that sound familiar?
Today, we are building again. Systems that think, machines that respond, networks that connect the entire world.
We are advancing faster than any generation before us. And once again, man is beginning to feel self-sufficient.
But the question is not, what are we building? The real question is, why are we building it? Because technology is not the problem, the heart behind it is. At Babel, the people said, "Let us make a name for ourselves." Not for God, not for purpose, for themselves. And that is where every generation must be careful.
Because it is possible to build great things for the wrong reasons. You can create, innovate, expand,
and still be moving away from God. When progress replaces dependence, you begin to drift. When achievement replaces surrender.
God did not destroy Babel because of the tower itself. He responded to what it represented. Is God ever threatened by the adventures and inventions of man? Why did God confuse the language of the men trying to build the Tower of Babel so they wouldn't be united?
The story of the Tower of Babel is about a unified humanity, moving forward without God.
And God said, nothing they propose to do will be withheld from them. Think about that. Man with unity and innovation has the capacity to achieve almost anything. But capacity without submission is dangerous.
Speed without direction leads to destruction. Progress without truth leads to confusion. And what happened next? Confusion sets in because God was not involved. Their language was distorted, their communication was disrupted, and their unity was lost. Because a world that moves forward without God will eventually collapse under its own ambition. Now look at our world today. We are reconnecting what Babel once lost. Global communication, unified systems, shared intelligence. The world is becoming one again. But the question remains, are we building with God or without Him? Because the danger is not in the technology, the danger is in the intention. You can use tools to glorify God or to replace Him. You can build platforms that point people to truth or platforms that elevate self above truth. Believer, listen carefully. God is not against building. He is against building without Him. Because when God is in what you build, He sustains it. He guides it. He gives it purpose. But when He is absent, no matter how impressive it looks, it will not stand. The lesson of Babel is not, do not build. The lesson is, do not build alone. Invite God into your knowledge. Invite Him into your creativity. Invite Him into your work. Invite Him into your use of technology. Because the goal is not to reach the heavens by human effort. The goal is to walk with God in everything you do. In this age of innovation, do not repeat Babel. Do not build a life, a platform, or a future that excludes God, because what you build without Him, you will have to sustain without Him. Someone asked me, how should a believer think in an intelligent world? Let's try answer this very important question in this concluding episode.
We are living in a world that is becoming increasingly intelligent. Systems are learning, machines are adapting, knowledge is expanding at a speed never seen before. Because the challenge is not just what we know, it is how we think. In 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16, the Bible says, "We have the mind of Christ, not the mind of the world, not the mind of systems." The mind of Christ. This is not a poetic statement. It is a spiritual reality. The mind of Christ is not defined by information. It is defined by alignment. Alignment with God's will, God's perspective, God's truth. And this is where the difference lies. Because intelligence processes data, but the mind of Christ discerns truth. Intelligence asks, what works? The mind of Christ asks, what is right before God? Intelligence seeks efficiency. The mind of Christ seeks righteousness. Intelligence focuses on outcomes. The mind of Christ focuses on purpose. And purpose is what gives direction to knowledge.
In this age, it is possible to think faster, but not think better. To analyze deeply, but not discern correctly. To process information, but still miss truth. Because truth is not discovered by speed, it is revealed by the Spirit of God.
And this is what many are losing: the ability to be still and know. The world is training minds to react quickly, but God trains the mind to respond wisely. The mind of Christ is not anxious, it is not pressured, it is not overwhelmed by information. It is steady, grounded, anchored in truth. Because it does not depend on what is happening around it. It depends on what God is saying within.
Believer, listen carefully. You are not called to think like the world. Even if the world becomes more intelligent, you are called to think like Christ.
To see beyond appearances, to discern beyond data, to choose truth over convenience. Because the real danger of this age is not ignorance.
It is misplaced thinking. We now come to the end of this series. Thanks for listening. This is Divine Voice, where God still speaks.
Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for other inspiring series. Thank you.